Hello, this is Howard, Teaser King, coming to you with what week are we in? Week 16 of the NFL. Very interesting week, a little confusing, a little misleading. First, let's look at the playoff scenario. The teams in, obviously, most people know this, but we'll review it. Denver, Kansas City, and San Diego, and we'll do the AFC first. Denver and Kansas City, due to Denver's loss last week to San Diego, has basically put Denver and Kansas City tied again. Now Denver owns the tiebreaker, but with 2 games left, anything can happen. So makes both teams have to play, have to win, play hard, not going to give up, must-win situations. San Diego, on the other hand, has to keep winning, but they've really got to hope for a lot to overcome Miami and Baltimore, especially with Miami playing Buffalo. So they try to win, they want to win, but we'll see what happens. In the NFC East, or AFC East, it's basically New England and Miami. Really, the way it's working out, New England blew their chance to be the #1 seed, which is hurting them. They haven't really clinched the division yet. They have a 2-game lead, but they play Miami next week. So if they lose to Baltimore and then Miami beats them, Miami wins the division. So again, it's a tough situation for New England. New England's not New England of old. They don't have the defense they have. They got Brady. He finds a way to win, but they look very sloppy. But they're still Tom Brady. In the next division, in the Central, you got Cincinnati and Baltimore. Basically, they play each other next week. So again, this week's a setup. Cincinnati looked terrible against Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh still has a hope for the playoffs, so I could see where that is. And oh yeah, let me put Pittsburgh in there too. Pittsburgh, the odds of them getting in are like 0. It's not going to happen. But mathematically they're there, but they've got to pass San Diego, Miami, and Baltimore, and keep winning. So yeah, next week they get Cleveland, so that should be a win. But this week they're in Green Bay, who needs the game, and that'll be touchy if they win, even with Matt Flynn in. And then in the Indies clinched, but they can still move up in the standings. They're a game behind New England now. So they could get to #2. They can't get to #1 because they'd be 11-5, and both Denver and Kansas City are not going to go to 11-5. So Indy's best hope is the 2 seed. And also the Jets have the very, very outside shot. Again, mathematically they can get to 8-8 and hope all the other teams lose, but it's just, I just don't see it. I mean, and you got to realize these teams aren't very good. Pittsburgh at 6 wins, the Jets at 6 wins. I mean, they're not like a good team who can get there. I mean, they're a bad team, but mathematically they're still in. So they have to win. Doesn't mean anything because they've only won 6 games. So it's not like they're a very good team. And that's where the deception comes in. You have to be very careful. Mathematically, the 6-win team is in, but realistically, they're not going to win, and it just kind of moves the point spread where it shouldn't go, and that's where we can take advantage of these things. In the NFC, you got the Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago fiasco. Basically, Chicago's got a tough game with Philly, Green Bay's a tough game with Pittsburgh, and the Lions have the easiest because they're playing the Giants, but careful and check the injuries, and I won't post this game till Sunday. Jason Pierre-Paul, I don't know if he's playing. I thought he was out. Now he's listed as questionable with the shoulder. If he's out, I'm taking the Lions. If he plays, I don't know. And there's a couple other players that are on the injured list. You got to be very careful now because players will play injured because they're playoff games. I don't see, I mean, the Giants are so far out of it, I don't see Jason Pierre-Paul playing because it's going to be a playoff game. But you will see other players play, such as Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer for Arizona. They probably wouldn't play if it was a week 3 game and they had a concussion and a hurt ankle. They probably wouldn't be out there. But because it's a playoff, they're playing and they're playing injured. That's why Seattle's a 10-point favorite. So we'll go to that division. You got Seattle basically win. They clinch the #1 seed. Arizona needs the game for the wild card, but again, they got some key injuries. And Frisco's in a weird spot. They basically probably can't get to the 1 seed, and they really can't get to the 2 seed because if they can't win a division, the best they can do is a 5 seed, and they're tied with Carolina or New Orleans. Whoever they're both 10-4. So Frisco wins to go to 11-4. Carolina's going to win, or New Orleans is going to win to go to 11-4 and win the division. So Frisco becomes the first wild card team. But what does that mean? I mean, they're still on the road for the they'll play the 4 seed, so they'd go and get probably the winner of they either go to Philadelphia or the Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay mess. So either way, they'll kill whoever they play. So where's their incentive? Yeah, they can win, but they're playing Monday night. Seattle will have already crushed Arizona by then, and they'll have no incentive. So be careful with Frisco. It's the last game of Candlestick. Big deal, but I think they're really playing well. Atlanta's terrible on the road. They did get Steven Jackson back, and they're playing a little better. But I look for Frisco to just, they're playing well to keep playing well. But it's a big number. I hate laying. If it goes to 13, you got to lay 7. I hate that in the pros. That's a tough point to cover, and it's very hard to get a blowout when you're favored by 13. It usually doesn't happen. So I would probably lay away from Frisco unless Seattle loses. If Seattle loses, and that'll take a miracle, then I would take Frisco if they have a chance to win their division. Otherwise, if Seattle clinches, I wouldn't even touch Frisco on Monday. They really don't have anything to play for. The 5 or 6 seed, who cares? And that's what's screwy about the NFL. Frisco's better than the Dallas-Philly winner, better than the Detroit winner. Theoretically, they should be the 2 or 3 seed, and yet the strange world of win your division, and we're going to rank you higher than the team with more wins, which is really strange, but that's the way it is. So it doesn't really give a good advantage. Again, Dallas and Philly, it's win the division, and New Orleans, Carolina win the division, and the other one's the wild card. So it's for that bye, and New Orleans, Carolina is really for that bye week. They're not really thinking they can be the #1 seed because Seattle's just not going to lose 2 games. It's not going to happen. So that's where you get the funny thing here. So you got to really watch that. There's a big incentive out there. So let's go to the playoff games. First one I see is Miami laying 2.5 to Buffalo. The trend: Miami's 4-1 the last 5 in Buffalo. The dog is 5-0 the last 5 in Buffalo. Buffalo is a strong home dog. Thaddeus Lewis will start. E.J. Manuel's out. I don't see the difference. E.J. Manuel's terrible. Thaddeus Lewis was good at Duke. I don't know. I don't know how Buffalo's even being competitive, but they are a very good home dog. You got them as a home dog. You got Miami in the cold. Miami plays close games. They do not blow out people. Yes, Miami has to win. Now here's the rub. Probably Buffalo would be the 2 or 3 point favorite here, but since Miami has to win, everybody's got to bet on Miami, which skews the line. The line's wrong. So in this type of game, with Miami laying 2.5 or 3, it's very hard to take Miami here. Yes, they have to win. They might win. It's not a guarantee. I don't know. The normal play is Buffalo in the 9. The dog's good in this series. Buffalo is a strong home dog. Miami is a road favorite. It's nothing. Miami just wins the games. They're not even as strong. If they win by more than 7 here, I'll be shocked. So you have this dilemma of probably the right play is Buffalo in the 9. Theoretically, Miami needs the game for the playoffs, whatever that means. So they're going to play it harder this week than they would have if they played them in week 8. I don't know. Probably not. It's probably the same effort. Are Buffalo going to lie down because it's not for the playoffs? Probably not. They didn't lie down last week. So, This play is Buffalo and 9. That's the play. So if you're thinking I'll take Miami because it's a playoff, they need it, you're right. If you get more than 3.5, if you got to get the 3.5 here. If you don't get the 3.5, I wouldn't play Miami. This will be a close game. This is the game like last week when I warned everybody about Philly, Minnesota. I said Philly shouldn't be favored. They're not a good road team, and Minnie's a good home dog, and Minnie wins the game outright, even though Philly needed the game. They're not in the right. This is not the right trend. This is not the right place to play Miami. At home, I could understand laying 3. As a dog here, I would say absolutely, but this is not good. So I would definitely be careful with Miami here, and really this is take Buffalo in the 9. Next game, New Orleans, Carolina. Carolina laying 3, and God, I have no idea. The trend is the favorite in this series in Carolina is 5-1. After that, there really isn't that big of a trend. New Orleans does not play particularly well in Carolina. Carolina is a very good home favorite. New Orleans is a terrible road dog, like the Seattle game. Again, the problem is winner wins the division and gets the bye. You got Drew Brees. How can New Orleans keep losing on the road? And then I think of a couple weeks ago when New Orleans killed Carolina. We had Carolina as the dog, thinking the same thing. Well, it'll be a close game. We'll take the dog. And here you have the same situation. You have, how do you not take New Orleans and Drew Brees and 9 points in a game they just blew out Carolina? They're going to run the same plays. It's the same offense and defense. They should be able to move the ball on them. So I don't know. You know, this is just really tearing me up at this point. All the trends say Carolina. They're a good home favorite. New Orleans is a bad road dog. In Carolina, Carolina wins. But again, I mean, I just can't sit there and ignore Drew Brees and 9 points. Ignore this is for the number 2 seed and the home field in the first round bye. And I can't believe New Orleans doesn't come to play. And you just can't ignore that. Now, I know they've had trouble on the road. God knows. They lost to St. Louis. 3 turnovers, 2 missed field goals. They lost at the Jets. They got killed at Seattle. I get it. Carolina beat Tom Brady at home in a close one. But the first game they lost to New Orleans. New Orleans knows they can beat them. You know, in my mind, this is take New Orleans in the 9. It's take the dog when the dogs won the first game. I get it's in Carolina, but I don't see the blowout. I don't see Carolina blowing out New Orleans. And I know New Orleans has had it tough on the road, but I got to believe after last week's game, as a road favorite, and especially as the Jets as the road favorite, and they barely beat Atlanta. I know they're a bad road team for whatever reason. And this is a playoff game, and this game's gotten me torn up because I can make a case both ways. I mean, all the trends are Carolina here. But again, it's a very tough game. It's a game probably not, to play very little, like the Miami game. I think I might try trapping the game. I would take New Orleans in 9 and Carolina laying the 3 straight up. Probably be a good way to bet this game. It's a very hard game to call, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised if Carolina went by 20 points. I'll be shocked. I think this is a game that New Orleans could win because they won at home. And the matchup's the matchup. The receivers are going to be open no matter where you play. You play the game in Saudi Arabia, you still got Drew Brees handling Carolina's defense. So again, this is a very, very difficult game. Again, I would probably take New Orleans in the 9, but the trends are all Carolina. If you got to bet this game, I don't really like to bet this game, but if you do, I think you tease the dog. I don't see where you get any benefit of Carolina -3. So I think it's a dog play. Dallas laying 3 to Washington. All the trends are Washington. Washington's 11-1 overall. 9-1 is a dog. 5-1 in Washington. Washington is the favorites 5-1. The favorites 9-1 the last 10. Washington's 8-2 the last 10. Dallas is terrible on the road. Washington's worse as a home dog. Again, terrible trends, but I like Washington in the 9 with the Spartan Michigan State quarterback. Excuse me, he hasn't played enough for me to remember him. Tony Romo will throw his interceptions. Dallas's defense is terrible. I cannot bet a defense as bad as this on the road. Laying points. Again, this would probably be Washington's favorite if this was earlier in the year, but Dallas needs the game. We saw Dallas need the game last week and blow a 20-point lead to Green Bay, which we had Green Bay and the 12.5 last week. I'm pretty sure we're the only ones who had Green Bay in the 12.5. Everybody else played Dallas, I'm sure. But I like Washington 9 here, and I really do like this one, and really will play Washington 9, one of my featured games. They have with RG3 out, you got a better quarterback in now. They'll score on Dallas, and they want to beat them, even though they can't make the playoffs. Now I know with Shanahan, and I don't like Shanahan. He's got his little son being the offensive coordinator. What a joke that is. I just don't see it. I see Washington in 9. I think both teams are there. I think it's a good over, and I'm not an over-under player. People know that, but this is definitely an over game. You got two terrible defenses, two pretty good offenses. This game should get into the 40s for both teams. Chicago and Philadelphia. Here, yes, I do like Chicago a lot. Getting the 9.5, teasing them up. This is also an over game. Philadelphia is just terrible at home. This is why I played the Lions against Philly. I was betting against Philly that time with a really decent offense of the Lions that fell asleep. But I don't see Chicago. This is a must-win game for both. This is a playoff game. And I honestly, both teams have a weak defense, but Philly will keep this game. This game will be a close game, go down to the wire. Either team will win, would not surprise me. I like Chicago. Take the points, take the 9.5. Absolutely strong play. Jets laying 2 to Cleveland. Jets need the game. I would not trust the Jets and Geno Smith. They're really a bad team. They got a decent defense. Cleveland, who knows? They're Jekyll and Hyde. Very inconsistent. That's why I don't play Cleveland a lot, and I don't play the Jets a lot. They're so inconsistent. There's so many better teams to play. If I had to play a team here, I'd probably play Cleveland, but I don't like either of these teams. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets lost. Just because they need the game, they still are a terrible team. All right, let's go to Kansas City, laying 6.5 to Indy. I like Kansas City here. Kansas City is a very good home team, very strong defense. I don't like Indy on the road. I just don't see it. Yes, they went into Frisco and won. I get that, but not Kansas City's defense. Rock solid. They've got a reprieve now. They've lost 2 close ones to Denver, and they lost to San Diego. And they got San Diego next week, so they have to win this game. They are at home to try to get the #1 seed. And I think Indy's they can get the #2 seed with a win, but Kansas City is the better team at home, and they're not going to, this is the wrong team to play. This will probably be a close game, but I like Kansas City at home. Their defense will find a way to win, and they have just enough offense. I like Kansas City even here. Cincinnati laying 7.5 to Minnesota. Must win for Cincinnati. Minnesota's not that strong on the road. They're a great home team, home dog. That loud noise, but this is Cincinnati here. They do have some injuries to their cornerbacks, but I think they'll be back. I just like Cincinnati here. They've been very strong at home. Even with Adrian Peterson possibly back, it's not going to be 100%. And I just like Cincinnati here. Again, they've been playing very, very strong and covering everything but last week they've been covering. So I look for Cincinnati to win the game even. Minnesota will probably hang around, probably get a 10-point game or so. Denver laying 10 to Houston. I love Denver there. Yes, Wes Welker's out, but they got other receivers. Houston basically is a bet against team. They're terrible. They are a good home dog. We'll probably play them somewhat competitive, but Denver after the loss will be upset. They need this for the #1 seed. This is a game Peyton Manning wins, and they're laying 4. I'm a little uncomfortable over 3, as you know, but I do like Denver here. Big trends for Denver. They've been covering a lot normally. The loss to San Diego was a fluke, but Houston, Case Keenum's out, which means Matt Schaub's going to quarter. That means there's a pick six for, we'll have a couple of pick sixes for Denver. I just think Denver's going to have a good day against them. Detroit laying 9 to the Giants. Again, I like Victor Cruz is out and Jason Pierre-Paul's out. I like Detroit, and another quarterback's out. I think Stevie Brown's out for the Giants. Eli Manning will get pressure. They don't run the ball. Eli Manning will get sacked a lot. This is not a good game for Eli. Baltimore is different. They had a great defense, and I took Baltimore. And again, I laughed because I'm probably the only guy who had Baltimore in 12 last Monday night. Those are very good dogs. I don't see the Giants here. Spread's a little bit high, but make sure Jason Pierre-Paul is out. If he is out, you go with the Lions and you lay the 3 because Stafford will have time. He's going to have his three picks a game, but the Giants will have 3 or 4 picks of themselves. If Cruz is out, that takes care of one of his weapons. And basically, I think Detroit gets 4 or 5 sacks, some turnovers, and this is the game Detroit will win. They will lose at Minnesota. They won't win the division, but I think they do win this game. Must win at home. But again, they were 7-17. They're like the best 7-17. They should have won all these games, and they keep turning the ball over. But here, I think they handle it. Here's a warning game: the Oakland-San Diego. San Diego's laying 10. Obviously, they need the game. The spread should be 6 or 7. Is 10. Oakland. This is a very strong Oakland trend. Oakland is a 5-1 in San Diego, and the dog in this series is 11-1, and the dog won the first game, and Oakland beat them in Oakland. San Diego's a road favorite. San Diego's a home favorite. It's not that strong. It's a warning here. This spread's too high. Don't get excited with San Diego. Oakland, this is a dog series. I don't want to take Oakland in 16 because San Diego needs the game. But that's the play. This play is not San Diego. This play is Oakland. This is probably a good game to watch because Oakland, a lot of injuries. You got to see who's playing. But this isn't. I don't think you're going to see San Diego 41, Oakland nothing here. I think you're going to see San Diego 23, Oakland 20 or something like that. Just beware. Oakland might win, but this isn't a blowout. And the last game, Green Bay laying 3 to Pitt. Matt Flynn, the quarterback. Got to take Pitt in the 9. As long as Pitt needs the game, you got Roethlisberger. You got a weak Green Bay defense. They'll score. Matt Flynn, it's not Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers was quarterback, the spread would be 7 or 8. I would lock Green Bay because Pittsburgh cannot cover the pass, as my Tom Brady show scoring 55 on them. So that's their weakness, but Matt Flynn really won't be able to take advantage of it too well. He's okay. He's not that good. Pitt needs the game. It's a playoff game. I like the 9. With Matt Flynn, it's not the same. You can take Pitt in the 9 here all day long. And I will have 2 locks, and I think we all know what they are. It's obviously Tom Brady and the points. Enough said. You got to go to my site later in the day. I wasn't going. I had 4 locks last week, and all 4 won. I had Kansas City. You can go to the site and see it. Kansas City, San Francisco, Seattle. Those were the 3 locks I had, and then all of a sudden, Sunday morning, the Jets, Miami is laying 1, goes to -2.5. Now I got New England in 8.5, and I locked it. That was my lock of the week. That's what I look for. So it was, so I had a late lock, and this is why I say just, when you buy the package, look late. Obviously, and I talked about it on the video last week, and I said you know, New England was a 1-point favorite, and I said, well, you know, I like it. When it went even, I said I'd take Tom Brady in 6, which would have covered because they lost by 4. But when you get Tom Brady over a touchdown against kind of a weak team like Miami, who doesn't blow people out, then it's a lock, and that's why I added it as a lock. Right now, I've locked it against Baltimore. Flacco has got the knee hurt, and Brady, it says his shoulder's bothering him, but you got to drive a stake through Brady to not have him play. So I'm sure he'll be fine. They must win this game because they got Miami, I believe, in New England the following week. So they have to win this game, and they want the number 2 seed and get some rest. So, you know, New England's New England. Baltimore is okay. They're not as strong as last year. Baltimore is a very strong home team, and they probably will cover, but you get New England in 8, that's for sure going to cover. So that's half my lock. I'll give you that for Christmas. I ain't giving you the other half of the lock. You have to buy that at the site. I don't see 4 locks this week like I did last week, but I do see 2. Again, San Francisco, Atlanta. The spread's too high. Laying 13. I would not take Frisco in this game. Atlanta with Steven Jackson back. Now, Atlanta's been getting a little bit better with Steven Jackson. They're not going to win. Frisco will probably shut them out. But if Seattle wins, they clinch the number 1 seed in the division, and Frisco really has nothing to play for. So I still think they play hard, and I still think they win. I just hate laying a touchdown or more in the NFL. And Atlanta's not that bad. I mean, Matt Ryan, they're not going to just fall down. It's not a high school team. So I just, you know, unless Seattle loses, and they're not going to lose, they're going to win big. Just, you know, you got to just kind of watch that game. Just too many points. I mean, if it's laying 7, you cut it to 1, I'd say, yeah, we're taking Frisco or 2. I just don't see the reward for the risk. It's a lot of risk to lay 7. They could be up 10 or 12 points, and it scores a late touchdown. They're up 5 and they take a knee. I mean, it's going to happen. They're not looking to. This isn't college, so just be very careful with the Frisco game. I think there's other games like Chicago, like Pittsburgh, New England, Denver, Cincinnati, Kansas City that we can play. Washington that we really don't need to play. Miami, maybe you play the dog in the New Orleans game, and then, you know, you don't need to mess with Frisco. If you want it for Monday night, I'd probably play the under there, but just be careful with that. Anyway, that's the games for week 16. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. And I'm going to do my bowl thing now, but basically, don't get overoccupied because a team needs to win the game that they're automatically going to win it. There's a reason the Jets are 6-8, Pittsburgh 6-8. Pittsburgh's a better 6-8 team than the Jets. There's a reason they're 6-8. So, but it's different. Kansas City and Denver are 11-3. When they want to win, they're going to win. They are capable because they're 11-3, and they're good teams. Kansas City, I had my doubts about, but they're getting better, and now I think after playing Denver, they realized, hey, we really are a good team. Even though we lost to them, we played them tough. So if the good team, if the best team needs to win, you can bet on them. And they're going to blow them out because they're the best team. But just because a Miami team or a Jet team needs to win, or Green Bay or Philly or Detroit, these teams are terrible. So, or Dallas, just because they need to win, they're not, you know, they're not automatic locks. And if you don't get them in the right scenario, you got Miami as a road favorite, you got Dallas as a road favorite. It's just that don't mean anything. Those are the games you can be careful with. Those are the traps. They probably shouldn't be favored, but they are because they need the game. So it's already factored in. You're already losing 6 points, so be very, very careful there. Okay, again, www.teaserking.com, please. If you want to buy, there'll be a big lock and get the pros and the colleges. Okay, have a nice week, everybody. Take care.